So dear students, now let's have a look at a different pattern of questions in which the compound interest is compounded either quarterly or half yearly or maybe some other time period other than a year. So what we mean by this, so generally whenever rate is mentioned in the question, so let's say in any question if it is told to us that rate of compound interest, so if it is known that rate of CI is, let's suppose, 8%. So if nothing is mentioned, so it is assumed that after every year, at the end of every year, the interest is given. So by default, the time interval after which the interest is given is 1 year. But there are schemes because there are people who don't want to invest their money for long term, because everybody is not you can say everybody doesn't have the same requirement. So some people may invest their money for a longer duration, other may want to invest the money for, let's say, 6 months or maybe 3 months. So banks often come up with different scheme. Instead of giving interest after 1 year, they start giving interest, say, let's say, after every 6 months. So if a bank is giving interest after every 6 months, so in 1 year 2 such interest would come. So 2 times bank would have to give interest to you. Similarly, if bank says that I am compounding interest quarterly, so compounded quarterly, so what would that mean? Quarterly, that means every quarter. Quarter means 1/4. So after every 3 months, the bank is going to give you interest. So after every 3 months, so in 1 year, the bank is going to pay you 4 times, 4 such periods of interest. But what about the rate? See, the rate, whatever is the rate given, so rate is always mentioned for entire year. Nobody is going to say you that rate for quarter or rate for half yearly. No, rate is always mentioned for entire year. Please remember this. So if bank is promising a rate of 8%, this 8% is for entire year. So if bank starts giving interest after every 3 months, this same bank, if it starts to give interest after every 3 months, that means now this 8% will be divided into 4 portions. In this 4 attempts or 4 cycles, this is the interest that you are going to get compounded. So this is the meaning, or this is the approach that we have to take when interest is compounded either quarterly or half yearly. So let's take an example. So let's suppose that rate is 20%. And this time bank is giving interest which is compound interest is compounded quarterly. So we have to find total amount after, let's say, 9 months. So what is the meaning of this? So compounded quarterly, that means 4 times in 1 year, or you can say after every 3 months. So total time is 9 months. So in these 9 months, how many times or how many cycles of interest are you going to get? 3 cycles, because each cycle is of 3 months. Quarterly, so quarterly means after every 3 months. So in this 9 months, 3 cycles of interest is what you are going to earn. But what about rate? Rate was 20%. So rate was for the entire year. But in 1 year, 1 year bank sees 4 cycles, 4 cycles as per the bank's scheme. So this 20% gets equally divided into these 4 cycles. So in each cycle, you get an increment of 5%. So each cycle increment of 5%. But since this is a case of compound interest, so let's solve this. So 9 months, that means 3 cycles. Each cycle will get you an increment or increase of 5%. So let the actual amount be P. So if the actual amount is P, this P is increased 3 times and each time it is increased by 5%. So final amount, so beginning from P multiplied by 100 and 5 by 100. Why? Because each time it is increased by 5. So 100 plus 5, 105 by 100. So 3 times, 3 cycles. So final amount can be found out in a single step in this manner. So if you try to give this concept the shape of a formula, so if you try to give this concept shape of a formula, then what will happen? So in case of semi-annually, let's suppose scheme is of semi-annually, rate is R%, fine. So semi-annually, means 2 times in an year, 2 times in an year. So therefore you can say rate per cycle would be equal to R by 2%, because semi-annually, that means 2 cycles in 1 year. Fine. Had this been quarterly, rate R%. So this rate means for complete year, entire year. So whatever the rate is given, so rate is always mentioned for the entire year. You have to convert that rate accordingly for each time period. So quarterly. So therefore rate per cycle would be R by 4%. So if somebody asks what will be the total amount in 1 year, so what should formula be? You deposited P 1 plus R by 100, but this time effectively this will be R by 4. So R by 4 by 100, and since the time is 1 year but interest is given quarterly, so don't write n is equal to 1. No, how many times the interest has been given. So in 1 year interest will be given 4 times, so n will be equal to 4. So this is how you have to deal with this approach. So let's take a few examples. So here is the first one. A bank offers 5% compound interest calculated on a half yearly basis. So half yearly basis, so rate is 5% for entire year. So 5% for entire year, but in 1 year 2 cycles are taking place, half yearly. So 5% effectively gets divided into 2 portions. So 2.5% increment in each cycle. Now what this customer has done, so he has deposited 1600 on 1st January. So 1600 he deposited on 1st January. So this 1600 will fetch 2 cycles of interest by the end of the year. 1 year is equal to 2 cycles. So this is invested on 1st of January. So this will remain invested for entire year. So in 1 year, it will see 2 cycles. So each cycle means increment of 2.5%. Interest means what? Your amount will increase. Similarly, another 1600, so this was deposited on 1st January. another 1600 was deposited on 31st January. So another 1600, so that was deposited, sorry, 1st of July. So this was deposited on 1st of July means what? It will fetch only one cycle of interest because only 6 months are remaining. In 1 year there are 12 months. So if you are depositing money on 1st of July, so by the end of the year only one cycle will get completed. So this money will fetch you interest for only one cycle, and effective rate of interest per cycle is 2.5%. So the question is what is the total at the end of the year, the amount you would gain by the way of interest. So what is the total interest this guy is going to earn? So let's find out. So let's see this. The first amount, initial amount was 1600. Now it sees two increments of 2.5%. So 100 plus 2.5. So this will be multiplied by this much 2 times. So starting from 1600, this is the final amount you are going to get. Now if you remove this decimal, so this will be 41 by 40. So this is basically equal to 1600 into 41 by 40 into 41 by 40. So this 40 into 40 is 1600. So this final amount is 41 into 41. So 41 into 41, so that is equal to how much? So 41 into 141, 41 into 4, 164. So 1681. So the first amount that you have deposited on 1st of January, at the end of the year that becomes 1681. Now what about the second amount? So second amount will fetch you only one cycle of interest. So starting from 1600, this would finally become again 2.5%. So 1600 into 102.5 by 100. So this is actually equal to 1600 into, if you cancel this, 41 by 100 again, 41 by 40 again. So 40 and 1600 cancels. So 40 times. So 40 into 41. So how much? 1640. So the second amount that you have invested in mid-year, 1600, so that is going to get you 1640. So here you can see the profit or the total interest that you have earned from first amount is 81. So you deposited 1600, but you are getting back 1681. So total compound interest that you have earned from the first amount, that is 81, from the second amount, that is 40, you deposited 1600 but you got back 1640. So 81 plus 40 is the total compound interest that you are going to earn, and this is equal to 121. So 121 is the final answer. Let's take another example. The difference between the simple interest and compound interest on 900 for 1 year at 10% per annum reckoned half yearly is. Okay, so what is the meaning of this question is, you have rupees 900. You can deposit in two different ways. First is simple interest, the other is compound interest. So simple interest rate 10% time 1 year. The other scheme, compound interest, so time is 1 year, rate is again 10%, so rate is 10%, time is 1 year, but the problem is it is compounded half yearly. So compounded half yearly means effective rate is 5% per cycle, because half yearly, so 2 cycles in 1 year. So time is equal to 1 year. So in 1 year there are 2 cycles. So let's see what is the final amount. So in case of simple interest, if you deposit 900, you get 900 plus 10% of 900, because in 1 year total amount of simple interest, so 10% of the original deposit, so 900 plus 10% of 900, so that is 90. So here if you deposit, you are going to get back rupees 990. What happens in this case? So let's see how much, what will happen to the final amount in case of second choice. That means in case of compound interest, which is reckoned half yearly. So starting with 900, two cycles will get completed. So 2 cycles of interest will complete. So what is the effective rate per cycle? Effective rate per cycle is 5%. See, the original rate was 10%, but since 2 cycles will get completed in 1 year, so effective rate per cycle, so 10 divided by 2, so 5% in each cycle. So let's see. So you deposited 900 rupees, you are going to gain 5%. So what is the interest for first cycle? So 5% of 900, that is 45. So updated amount. So what will be the updated amount? Because this is case of compound interest, so you have to update amount before you calculate the interest for next year. So updated amount, so 900 plus 45, so 945. So what is the interest for next year? So interest for next year will be calculated on the updated amount, so 945. So 5% of 945, so 94.5 divided by 2, so that is 47.25. 47.25. So let's stop here because we are interested in the total interest earned. So total interest earned, we can find out 45 plus 47.5. So total compound interest earned is equal to 45 plus 47.25. So that is equal to 92.25. Whereas in case of simple interest, total simple interest that you have earned is equal to how much? You deposited 900, but you got back 990. So you have earned a simple interest of rupees 90, the extra money. So 990 minus 900, so that is equal to 90. So in this case you are earning rupees 90, whereas in this case you are earning rupees 92.25. What is the question? The difference. So the difference of these two amounts. So difference, as you can see, of rupees 2.25. So this is the answer. Now let's see this one. When the interest is compounded quarterly, there are 4 conversion periods in a year, and the quarterly rate will be equal to what? Okay, fine. So when the interest is compounded quarterly, quarterly means 4 cycles in 1 year. So that is what is being said, 4 conversion periods in a year. So what happens? What will, and the quarterly rate. So what will be the quarterly rate? So if the total rate is at R%, so what happens to quarterly rate? So as I already explained, so rate will be divided by 4. So this R% is for entire year. So since there are 4 cycles, so for each cycle R by 4. So 1/4 of the annual rate. So this is the correct answer. So let's move to next one. Find the compound interest on 1000 rupees at rate of 20% per annum for 18 months when interest is compounded half yearly. So half yearly means 2 cycles in 1 year, 2 cycles per year. So what is the rate per annum? So 20% per annum. So what is rate per cycle? So 20 divided by 2. So 10% per cycle. So increment of 10% per cycle. Now the question is, you have deposited this money for 18 months. So 18 months is equal to how many cycles? So one cycle is of 6 months only. So in 18 months, 3 cycles. 3 cycles. So you deposit rupees 1000. So this will see 3 increments. So each increment will be effectively of 10%. So increment means increase of 10%. So what will be the final amount? So why I am writing this 10%? Because 3 cycles are there and on effective rate per cycle came out to be equal to 10%. So if you deposited or if you start with 10,000, so 3 increments. So let's mathematically understand the increment. So increment of 10%. So 100 plus 10. 110 by 100 into again 110 by 100 into again 110 by 100. So this 0 zeros will get cancelled. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So this is, and these zeros will also get cancelled. So this is 11 into 11 into 11. So this is equal to 1331. So the final amount. So you have to find only the compound interest. So that means you deposited 1000 and after 3 cycle it became 1331. So what is the total interest that you have earned? The difference that means 331. This is the total interest that you are going to earn. Let's move to the next one. Find the compound interest on rupees 8000 for 3 by 2 years. That means 1.5 years at 10% per annum. Interest is payable half yearly. So half yearly means 2 cycles per year. 2 cycles per year. So what is the rate for entire year? 10%. So in each cycle effectively you are going to feel an increment of 5%. What is the total time for which the money was deposited? 3 by 2 years. That means 1.5 years. So 1.5 years would mean 3 cycles. 3 cycles. So basically 8,000 rupees incremented 3 times. Each increment of 5%. Each increment of 5%. So let's see, starting from 8,000. So 8,000 multiplied by 100 and 5 by 100. So that is equal to 21 by 20. So 21 by 20 and this increment 3 times. So again 21 by 20 and again 21 by 20. So this 20, 20, 20 is 8,000. 8,000. So this is basically 21 into 21 into 21. So that is equal to 441 into 21. So this is equal to 9261. So 9261. This means if you deposit 8,000, you are finally going to get back this much. So net interest earned, net compound interest earned is equal to 9261 minus 8,000. So that comes out to be equal to 1261. So this is the final answer. Now let's see this one. So what is the difference between compound interest? Amount is 5,000, time is 1.5 years at 4% per annum, compounded yearly and half yearly. So let's see, this is a good question. So two types. First, see what happens if 5,000 is compounded yearly and the time period is 1.5 years. So let's see. 5,000 scheme is compound interest compounded annually. What is the rate? rate is 4%. So let's see what happens. So after the end of 1 year, final amount would be 5000 into 104 by 100, because rate is 4%, but the total time is 1.5 years. So after another half year, so in that half year, only 2% will be given, because for the entire year 4%. So for half year, only 2% increment will be witnessed. So whatever the amount has become till now, so that will further increase by 2%. So 102 by 100. So let's see the final value. So a few zeros will get cancelled. So 5 2s are 10. So 51. So this is equal to 104 into 51. So 104 into 51. So how much this comes out to be? 104. So 520. So this is 5304. 5304. Now suppose you invest this same amount 5000 in second scheme in CI, which is compounded half yearly. Half yearly time is 1.5 years. So 5000 will see increment for 3 cycles. What will be the effective rate per cycle? Since rate is 4% for entire year, so for half a year 2%. So increment of 2% per cycle. So what will be final amount? So 5000 into 102 by 100 into 102 by 100 into 102 by 100. So a few zeros are bound to get cancelled. So this 0, again 5 2s are, so 51. Again this is 51 by 50. So this is equal to 51 into 102 into 51 divided by 50. So this comes out to be equal to 5306.4. So in one scheme you are earning 5304, in the other scheme you are earning 5306.4. So what is the difference of these two amounts? So difference 5306.4 minus 5304.0. So the difference is 2.04. So this is 04 actually. So 2.04. This is the final answer. Let's move to the next one. The effective annual rate of interest corresponding to nominal rate of interest 6% per annum. Now what is nominal? What is effective? See, if you are mentioning a rate of, let's say, 6%, so this is the rate for entire year. But if you are paying interest after every 6 months, that means you are paying interest for 2 cycles. So this 6% is just for the sake of saying, nominal, for the name only. The real mathematics is something else. So this 6% is just for the name sake, just for the sake of saying, because this is not what is happening. 6% is for entire year, but in reality you are paying interest 2 times in that time period. So question is, what is the effective rate of interest? So please understand, this 6%, so effective rate per cycle is 3%. 3%. Now what is the net effect of this? So please understand. So if you start from rupees 100, so it will see 2 cycles of increment. So each increment will be of 3%. Fine. So let's see what will happen. So interest earned after completion of first cycle. So initial deposit is rupees 100. So what is the interest you are going to earn after one cycle have ended? So 3% of 100, so rupees 3. What will be the updated amount? So updated amount will be rupees 100 plus 3, so 103. What will be the interest you are going to earn at the end of second cycle? So interest earned. This 3 rupees you are surely going to earn, as is the case with compound interest. So what is unique about compound interest? So what makes compound interest differ from simple interest? In case of compound interest, the interest that you have earned also starts to earn interest. So interest is given on interest. So the interest for second time period will be 3 you are definitely going to get. So 3 plus 3% of 3. 3 definitely plus 3% of 3. So 3% of 3, that means 3 by 100 into 3, so 9 by 100. So 0.09. So 3 plus 0.09. So total interest that you are going to earn, so total interest earned, so first cycle 3, second cycle 3 plus second cycle 3.09, so 3 plus 3.09, so total 6.09. So effective rate, that means you deposit 100 and you earn an interest of 6.09. So this is what will give you the real rate, effective rate. So therefore effective rate is equal to 6.09%. So you can solve this using a shortcut. So what that shortcut is? Since you have understood that in 1 year there are going to be 2 cycles. So this was the nominal rate. So this happens 2 times in 1 year. So 3% per cycle. So shortcut is 3% plus 3% you are definitely going to get the next year. The additional 3% of 3%. So 3% plus 3%, that means 6% plus 0.09. So this is 6.09%. Let's take another example. The effective annual rate corresponding to a CI of 8% per annum payable half yearly. So again same concept. So 8% for entire year, but in reality 2 cycles are getting completed. So in each cycle 4%. So starting from 100, just understand what is the interest you are going to earn. So for first year interest is rupees 4, second year 4 plus interest on interest. So 4 plus 4% of 4. So 4 plus 4% of 4. So 4% of 4 means 4 by 100 into 4. So 16 by 100. So first year interest is 4. Second year interest is 4.16. So total interest comes out to be 8.16. So deposit 100, and because of this in 1 year you are going to earn 8.16 rupees. So effective rate of interest is 8.16 is what percent of 100 is what percent of 100. So needless to say that is equal to 8.16% itself. Fine. So let's move to the next one. If a principal P becomes Q in 2 years when interest R is compounded half yearly. Okay, fine. So principal amount is P. So P will become Q. So it means Q is equal to P into, so in 2 years when interest R percent is compounded half yearly. So half yearly means 1 plus rate will be divided by 2, effective rate. See, R percent is for entire year and this is getting this is getting compounded half yearly and the time is 2 years. So in 2 years means 4 cycles will get completed. So R by 2 divided by 100 to the power 4. Fine. And also and if the same principal P becomes Q in 2 years when interest as percent is compounded annually. So in case of second scheme, so second scheme is offering S percent and that is compounded annually. So as per second scheme, Q is equal to P into 1 plus S by 100 to the power 2. So now we have to compare R with S. So let's see. So if you divide both sides of the equation, so what do you get? Or you can say that Q by P is equal to 1 plus R by 2 100 whole to the power 4, and from here Q by P is equal to 1 plus S by 100 whole square. So Q by P, so both these values have to be same. So both these value will be same. So let's compare them. So it means 1 plus R by 200 to the power 4 should be equal to 1 plus S by 100 to the power 2. And now we have to compare R with S. So let's do. So from here we can say that 1 plus S by 100 is equal to 1 plus R by 200 whole square. Now since both these numbers are greater than 1, so we can definitely say that 1 plus R by 200 is less than 1 plus S by 100, because if you square this only then it becomes equal to this much. So this has to be a small quantity, this will be a smaller quantity. If you square this, then it becomes equal to this. So this is definitely a smaller quantity. So from here what can be said? So it can be said that R by S is less than 2 or R is less than 2S. So if R is less than 2S, it means R is definitely less than S. So this is the final answer. So this is how you have to deal, when interests are getting compounded either annually or quarterly. Let's suppose you may get a few questions where interest is given after every month. So if R percent is for entire year, if the interest is given after every month, so what are you going to say? That effective rate per cycle is R by 12, and how many cycles per year? So 12 cycles per year. So basically you have to understand how many cycles are getting completed in the given time period and what is the effective rate offered per cycle.